Welcome to Cape Fear Business Roundtable. I'm Frank Williams and I'm your host. And today we have Reggie Shropshire with the Action Coach with us. Reggie, thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Before we dive in, I do want to talk briefly about our two sponsors, which are two branding partners located under one roof here in Leland. The first is Pioneer Strategies, and Pioneer Strategies can help you with marketing plans, communication plans, media relations. If you need a new logo, they can do that for you and also help with digital advertising. Under the same roof is Pioneer Specialties, a promotional products distributorship, and they have access to over 1 million products from 4,300 suppliers worldwide. That's important because they can help you find products you don't even know to search for if you go to a website online, and they'll manage the entire process so that you can focus on running your business and don't have to worry about your product order. So if you need help with branding, reach out to Pioneer Strategies or Pioneer Specialties. And with that, Reggie, thanks again for joining us. We greatly appreciate your time today. And obviously we live in a fast growing part of North Carolina and we've seen a lot of new people moving here. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're originally from and how you wound up in this beautiful corner of North Carolina.
All right, good. Thanks for having me, Frank. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I was born and raised in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Came out here via the Marine Corps when I was 18, right out of high school. I often tell people, like, hey, what school did you go to? I was like, I went to the University of the Marine Corps. So a drill instructor was my freshman year, orientation.
A lot
And
of college students could not handle that type of instruction today.
I found it to be helpful once I got the professional world. So put a pin in that. But anyway, so I came out here via the Marine Corps, just did one term, had a great experience. Glad I did it. But I definitely wasn't a career Marine. That was for sure. The whole government property thing, that they take that attitude that you're government property. So I had some other aspirations outside of that, and so moved on, transitioned to civilian life. Met my wife right before I got out. She was going to East Carolina. She was a student in East Carolina and lived in Greenville, and she's a Wilmington native. So once she transitioned out of school, we moved back here, and so I moved back to Wilmington, moved to Wilmington in 1997, and been here living in paradise ever since. Just kind of followed a girl here and didn't realize what an incredible town it was, and what a great community it was. So we built a life here. Had three kids. They're now 21, 23, and 25. So, and planted down roots, and great place in the community. So that's how I got to this part of the world.
Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about work, but before we do that, tell us what you like to do outside of work, what your either favorite place to go is in this part of the state, or favorite place to eat, or favorite thing to do.
I currently, my current passion is I'm having a torrid affair with golf. Golf is my mistress, and I picked it up about 4 years ago, and I am totally enamored with it. It's good, clean, fun, healthy. I've enjoyed the interpersonal connections and relationships I built through it. I've enjoyed the challenge of it. And golf is one of those things that you're always chasing something that you'll never achieve, which is the perfect game. And there's that's right. That's right. That's right. So but it's really good. Keeps me healthy, keeps me active. And so I've enjoyed that. Working on getting better and making progress there. So a lot of my rot life revolves around that. Enjoy eating, the couple of clubs I belong to. So, they got pretty good food at both of those places. I am. A lot of people don't realize this, but with the name Shropshire and with the color of my skin, but I'm half Mexican. So, well, what do I eat? Mexican joints. My mother's Mexican, so that's why I have the name Shropshire. But good, authentic Mexican food. A couple places I really enjoy, like my favorite go-to is Los Portales. They're at Kerr Avenue and Wrightsville Avenue, not far from in that area. Man, really great authentic food. And oh, it's incredible. And there's a market down Kerr Avenue that has a hot bar that has incredible, authentic Mexican food in that hot bar. So, a lot of Mexican food. Like to cook. I'm a good cook. So a lot of the things if you want it done right, got to do it yourself. So I cook a pretty mean steak. I'm from Oklahoma, so it's hard to get smoked meats my style here. I've grown to, although I resisted for years Eastern North Carolina barbecue. I was first time I stepped into like a barbecue restaurant here. I was like, I was gonna get something to go. I was like, yeah, barbecue, that sounds good. I'll get me some ribs and brisket and stuff. And they were like, it's like, what kind of barbecue you got? They're like, oh, we got barbecue. No, 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 like what kind? Yeah, like
They want
barbecue. And they gave me this plate, and I was like, "All right, well, give me a mess of it." So I got some, and it was not. I was actually resistant for years but it's grown on me. But I do like to smoke some ribs, smoke a brisket. Doing a little playing on the on the smoker. So, but anyway, but that's so a lot of my, so I've got that passion and creativity. I like to cook my own food, but like all sorts of foods, man, I like them all.
simple that remark.
Yes, sir.
I will say golf is more of my arch enemy, and I haven't played it in years because when I played, I would get so angry because I just didn't play enough to be any good, and I was playing with people who did, and they
Yeah.
like to talk a lot, so I haven't played in a while. But
Yeah.
we could do a whole different podcast on what is and is not barbecue. But I love brisket, but to me, brisket, while I love it, it's not barbecue, it's brisket. So that's
That's
kind
right.
of the linguistic distinction that we have here. But and if I were to ever run for governor of North Carolina, I would run on the combo platter of Eastern and Western on one plate, and you get to have the best of both worlds. Um, but let's talk a little bit about your career path. Obviously, you started out in the Marine Corps, and certainly thank you for your service there. How did you move from that to what you do now? How did you end up as with Action Coach?
Yeah, so I transitioned, out of the Marine Corps. I really did what I did in the Corps, and I was a supply guy. I was a warehouse guy specifically. So I worked in warehouses and just on the logistical side. And then when I got out, I started doing what I did. Obviously my resume was built for logistics and supply and doing those kind of things. So I got out and I worked in warehouses. Realized we moved back, and I managed a warehouse when I got out in Greenville, and that was great. Moved to Wilmington and got a job down at the ports working a warehouse, and I was miserable. It was the first job I'd ever had in my life that I was miserable. And I had worked, all my life, as a kid, young, hustling, 10 years old, cutting grass, and, worked in fast food and fast casual food. So worked in kitchens and worked on sites. Really always enjoyed working. Never disliked work. But I for the first time was watching the clock, and I wasn't happy. And my Tina, before we were married, we were living together at the time. She said, I was miserable, and she said, either you need to do something different or you need to go live somewhere else because you're not fun to be around. So that was the easy option. So we'll decided what I wanted to do, and I realized that my achieving a lot of the aspirations, I had a strong desire to achieve and create a life of success, both professionally and financially. So wanted to figure out what the path to that was. And so I got into sales. Thought, sales would be a path for that. I was voted amongst my friends the most likely not to be a salesperson because, believe it or not, this catches some people by surprise, but I'm a bit of an introvert. Actually quite a bit of an introvert. If I go into a room of people I don't know, and they don't introduce themselves to me, I'm not going to introduce myself to them. So and a lot of people feel that salespeople are often heavy extroverts and, real people. I'm not a people person, but I'm just a much more reserved one. So my friend, I went and bought like, $300 worth of clothes, slacks and shirts and ties. And so I got in the manufactured and modular housing business. By the way, my friends, I bought those shirts, slacks, and ties. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing, man? You're never going to make it in sales." Well, turned out they were wrong. So I got into manufactured and modular sales, and it was something I was built for. So did really well. Within a year became a sales manager. Within another year became a general manager of the location. So I am, 24, 25 years old. I'm running herd on a multi-million-dollar business. Everybody that worked for me was at least 10 years older than I was. Most of them had those college degrees. I had a guy that graduated from Carolina, had a guy that graduated from, App State. I had guys that, had degree, all these guys were, college guys, but they didn't get the skill set that I developed in the Marine Corps, which is why I went in. Was because it teaches young men to actually be exceptional human beings, and that was the sales pitch I got from my recruiter. Was here's all the successful, exceptional people that have come through the path of being Marine. So I was like, well, yeah, I want to be successful too. So I found those skill sets and core competencies and values, and the mindset things that they teach in that environment has served me well professionally. So I was in the manufactured modular housing business, did really well in that. Was really young. I was the youngest general manager out of 130 stores nationwide. I was in the retail side of the business. So worked on Oleander Drive, and if I don't know how you've been here all your life, right, Frank?
I moved away for a while, but I did grow up here and then moved back. So
yeah, if you'll remember driving down Oleander Drive, like all kinds of mobile and manufactured home lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were tons of them. That was kind of mobile home alley. You'd people come to town and go shopping there. Well, as you will know now that no longer exists. That industry is a fraction of what it does. So that industry peaked in the late '90s, and I kind of jumped in when it was right almost at its peak, and it really kind of went downhill and imploded. So I was a legend in a world that no longer exists. I did real well as president of the local manufactured housing association. I did really well in that world, but that world was going away, and I had to figure out what to do. Once it got to the point 7 years in to where it was headed downhill, I had to kind of jump off that roller coaster in 2004 and figure out what I want to do next. And, in that journey of trying to figure out what I want to do when I grew up, I was a young guy, trying to figure out, and I didn't like the way the industry was headed, which was toward the modular business, which was a little more complex, a little more detailed, kind of custom home building light. And it wasn't, didn't fit my nature or my interests. So in figuring what I want to do next, Action Coach prospected me and said, you have a great background to be a business coach. Why don't you buy into our business opportunity? And that business opportunity was buying an Action Coach franchise. So in 2005, I started an Action Coach franchise here as a business coach. It appealed to me because coaching and developing my team and really growing them from let's take my sales team of people that were struggling to actually being wildly successful and making more money than they ever made in their lives or could ever imagine making in their lives. So helping people become wildly successful when at one point they were struggling. And that was really the part that I really enjoyed, making a difference in that way. So that fit the concept of that, and becoming an action coach, business coach. That appealed to me because I would do that for business owners. So started my coaching practice in 2005. So we are actually at 20 years in November of this year. Yeah, man, thanks. So of operating here, and it's been fun. Helped a lot of business owners along the way. It's been cool to change lives and make impacts and, be connected in a different way to the community. So anyway, it's been a fun ride. So here we are.
Well, and tell us more for those who don't know what Action Coach does. Tell us how you help business owners, what types of people that can benefit from working with you, and what your range of services and coaching opportunities is.
Yeah, absolutely. The Action Coach is the world's largest business coaching organization. I'm one of 1,000 offices around the world. I'm a partner with them and a franchise partner. Really, what we do is we've done a lot of things traditionally, and I'm not going to say pivoted. We're not pivoted, but opened up probably and expanded is probably a better word to a different suite of services. So the historically, what we've done is help business owners grow. So, business owners are often left to their own devices and often plateau at certain levels based on their skill set, mindset, belief system. Honestly, we start to get into some the 8 inches between their ears. I'm sure you see this a lot. That there's so many business owners that just one business owner can get to this level, one business owner gets stuck at this level. Some business owners never get off with great intentions and good professional history and acumen, and you think, man, that person's going to make it, and they fail. The road to making a business viable and then successful is a tough road that is not for the faint of heart. And there's often a lot easier ways to make a living because it takes a special set of skills. It's the profession with the highest failure rate. 87% of people that start businesses fail, and a handful of reasons for that. So we help business owners overcome those things by providing them training, education, knowledge, support, deadlines, accountability to help them achieve their goals and objectives faster than they would at their own devices and with greater certainty. So that's what I do. That's what we've done traditionally for 20 years. I work with them, work with their teams, do whatever it takes to help them grow and outperform their peers. And there are people that, and I think a couple of them, Frank, that maybe I think you're close to one of them that you've watched. Kind of like what's got it. Like, you're talented, but you are really, you're growing at a pace that's unusual. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing thing to watch. And without saying his name, he has been a guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
And seeing it couldn't happen to a better person, first of all, but just the growth trajectory that he's had in such a short time is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah. And it's similar to what's happening to me, like in my golf game. Like, people have hung out with me over 3 years. Well, about a year ago, I was getting better and getting better. And about a year ago, I started regressing, and I hired a coach, and a coach that works with golfers like I work with clients. And I heard that, and I was like, I need that guy. Because one of my clients had him as a coach, and I was like, I need that guy. And so I got hooked up with him. And, they often say that, you need 10,000 touches to master anything. Like, you need 10,000 repetitions to be able to master to become a master. Well, guess what? And I just thought if I went and hit a bucket of balls and just tried harder and just practice more. But guess what? If 5,000 of those golf swings are improper golf swings, it doesn't matter. Huh?
Then you're developing a bad habit that will hold you back.
Right. So I was just hitting bad shots like more often. And I just, no matter how hard I tried, I just hit the ground more. Well, guess what? There's such a concept I was never taught, which was hitting the ball inside out and hitting on us. I didn't know what a swing plane was and all that kind of thing. All I knew is I hit the dirt a lot. So, business owners run across the same kind of things. Is they just, they think that if I just try harder and I just do more, or I get motivated, that, I just need more oomph. But if, you don't have the right knowledge, skills, support, mindset, then you're gonna end up sabotaging yourself and plateau at a certain point. So that's what I do for business and what we've done for years. There's another component that we have expanded to do a whole lot more training. So now, our focus is doing sales training, management training, leadership training. We're rolling out a marketing training program. So we've got a variety of 12-week master classes that are designed to for business owners, team members, salespeople, to come in, managers and to come in for an hour and a half and learn how to do those functions more effectively. For instance, managers. So many people, especially in small to medium businesses, they have found themselves in positions of being a manager. They're a high achiever. They've done well. They find themselves in the position of being a manager. But rarely, with rare exception, have they ever been trained on how to manage. They've never been trained for that next level of leadership. So you take a high achiever, put them in a management position and think, well, just, have other people do it their way. Well, guess what? The people they're having doing it their way aren't them. They're not as ambitious. They're not have the same skill set, the same mindset, the same talent, behavioral style, all those things. And they just say, go do it. And they go, well, boss, I don't know how to be a manager. We just delegate. Just delegate. Okay. Well,
How do you do that?
yeah. How do you delegate?
Yeah.
And I ask him in the podcast, like, if you're a manager, leader, in an organization, like, what kind of training have you received on delegation? I ask that room to people 80% of the time. That I've been
Rarely does
trained
anyone
on
raise
how
their
to
hand.
do the skill of delegation, which is one of the four most important skills that a manager has, the ability to delegate. So we take people through a 12-week management masterclass that teaches people a management system that they can implement and install in their business so that the system actually helps them get productivity and competency and help the people be productive. And it's done via a system, not done how most managers do it, which is with emotion and personal like strength. Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get in there and crack the whip, man. I'm going to wear them out. I'm going to yell, scream, spit. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad. You don't do this, I'm going to be mad. So managing with fear and intimidation, and that just exhausts everybody. And just like a good pep talk in the locker room, and just like a good tail chewing, in the field, it only lasts so long. That's right.
Especially these days when good talent's even harder and harder to find and to keep.
Yeah.
You know, I went through a job years ago that's almost the poster child for some of the things you're talking about. This was before I started my business. I got hired for a sales job, and I'm still friends with the manager who hired me, but he was one of those great sales reps that became a sales manager and had no idea how to manage. And he tried to make me sell like him, and I'm not him. I don't have his personality. I'm not wired like him. And he did not succeed as a sales manager, but then he went back to just being a sales rep. Is still with the company and is one of their top ones. He figured out, I don't want to manage, I want to sell. And one of the things I run across, and I'm sure you see it, or person is a great mechanic, so they decide to open a garage. They have no idea how to do all the other things beyond working on the car. They can fix your car with their eyes closed, but they can't do the payroll, the HR, the P&L, all those things that they have to do. And I read a lot of books, and one book I read, The E-Myth Revisited, you've probably read it, and it talked about going from having a job working for yourself to actually having a business. And I think that's part of what you help people do is make that transition. And to follow up on something else you said, have you ever read Atomic Habits?
Yes. I've actually seen James Clear speak in person. He's incredible.
Great book. I just recently reread a quote from that where it said, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems," and that goes right back to what you were talking about. You've got to have those systems in place, and we had a good example of that recently in my own business on the promotional product side, where the person who'd been talking with the client was on PTO for 3 days when the client called back. The person who filled in was able to go and find exactly what information they needed to find right where it was supposed to be and pick up like they were the one managing the client the whole time because the system was in place and the info was there. And the client said, "Wow, y'all are good note takers." Because the information was where it was supposed to be so that we could find it without having to reinvent the wheel. Simple thing, but it goes back to having a system and following it.
That's right. So we help business owners. Those are, having systems and processes are one of the many things a business owner needs to have in place. So we do. We've got this training component where we train on different business competencies in different areas of business: sales, management, leadership, marketing. And also we train business owners on how to be better business owners, how to be more effective. Most business owners didn't go to school and didn't get training. They didn't get a degree in business ownership. They were just like, how hard could it be? My boss is an idiot. I can do it better than they can, right? How hard could it be? And you realize you get into it and you're like, oh, this is hard. Oh, I've got to market.
I know why they look so tired all the time.
Yeah. Like I've got to go from doing one or two jobs and being and also and maybe a part-time job you have is being able to be a armchair quarterback to your boss and go, well, I would do it this way. I do it this way. And what you don't realize is the boss has 12 jobs.
And the boss maybe already tried it the way you're saying.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So they've got 12 jobs and 12 things you have to have competency in. So being able to know just enough to be dangerous about key areas and being able to navigate and knowing what to do, also knowing what not to do, and being able to have cliff notes and the short, quick answer to here's how I handle the situation can go a long way too. So we we do this training piece, but this business owner training piece, and one thing that we are going to lean into, we've done it for years, but we've done it low key. That we're excited about being able to help the business community here locally, is putting them through what I like to call the 30-day MBA in business ownership, because being able to fix that training problem. That training, I wish I would have, gone to and gotten proper training on how to grow a business. But because, by the way, growing a business, totally different skill set than working in an operating business. Like operating a business and growing a business, two different things, two different skill sets, two different knowledge bases. Being able to go through the mental and the having the wherewithal to break through to get to different levels. Because, by the way, here's a conundrum in business. You get to one level in business, and then then you go to the next one, and you don't know what you're doing. Like you think, well, I can just get up here and all I was doing, and I'm going to hire more employees or get to this next step in the business ladder. You're like, oh yeah, and you realize you don't know what you're doing. You've never been here before. And most business owners, they're hard work and they figure it out. They stumble and skin their knees and go through the public embarrassment of being at this new level and not knowing what they're doing. Right? Embarrassment amongst their team or maybe even to customers, but then they figure it out and they get to the new level. And guess what? Growing a business is about climbing to new levels of incompetency. And at a certain level, you just start to tap out. So being able to kind of grease the skids and give them the, quick in the moment, knowledge and advice and guidance to help them through. But that gets exhausting for everybody after a while. So if we can back that up with a strong foundational knowledge of how to grow a business. So Action Coach has a business operating system that we've used for the 30 years that we've been in business, over 30 years. And so what's happened is the founder of our company, Brad Sugars, has recorded kind of 30-minute segments of his 30 years of business experience. Is called 30X. And he trains and teaches. He used to have to go spend a few $1,000s for a course, on a 2-day course to learn these fundamentals. Well, he learned to break it down. And we've done those courses here locally, but it's hard to get a business owner away from their business for 2 days and, invest a few $1,000s in which to do it to make it worth everybody's time. Well, this has all been recorded, by the way, not by me, but by, Brad Sugars, the guy that's invented the world's #1 business organization on the planet. And he's really invented coaching for small business owners. He was the creator of that. It didn't exist 30 years ago. So he's recorded all his experiences and all his knowledge and his system that we implement. He's kind of put it all on video. And so we give that to local business owners at 30 minutes a day over this period. It's called the 30X Challenge. And so I've done this kind of low key with my clients and a few people that are interested in what we do. And, that person we're talking about, that's how they kind of entered into our world is, we would host folks and in a small group, we would, have a cohort built and we'd take people through the 30X Challenge. And it was designed to be kind of low key because it's really designed just for our clients. And I was kind of, like entrepreneurs do, I was kind of being creative and scribbling outside the lines and offering it to prospective clients that I thought had a lot of potential. And so we've done that for years and it's done great for people. Well, now I'm in position and the franchise is a little more open, or it's more open to opening that up to the greater business community as a whole. So we're going to start marketing, advertising it, opening that up as a way to help the business community get that education and learn the fundamentals and take them through a 30-day MBA of how to grow a business. It can be transformational for small businesses. And we're going to do that as our way, because Action Coach is all about world abundance through business reeducation. That's our vision and our motto. So this kind of falls in line with that. And we're gonna launch that program in mid-July. We're starting kind of ramping up marketing and advertising campaigns for that now. So that'll be the first public cohort, not just a little private group, but a public cohort that will invite business owners. So they have to apply for the program. Here's the cool part. They have to apply. They have to be accepted. There's some, the only rules are you've got to have a legit business. You've got to be ambitious and committed to growth is the two things. And if you're ambitious and committed to growth and willing to be accountable, then here's the cool thing. People that go through that program, there's not going to be a fee attached. There's not going to be a financial fee. The only investment that's required is their commitment to doing the work, watching 30 minutes lessons a day. There's a couple of measures in there to make sure they stay accountable to doing that, but they'll walk away with this list. It's a bit overwhelming. We have to actually implement a support call weekly to make sure people don't get overwhelmed, because when business owners go through this, they get like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. 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 They get overwhelmed with all the things they could do that they, haven't thought about to grow and improve their business. So anyway, that's kind of what we're up to now. So there's kind of what we've done in the past, what we started over the last couple of years, and then what we're moving to in the future. And then people that go through that program, they're really fired up and they see what we do. And after they go through that, typically they're like, hey, what's next? What else you got? And, that's our, that's the way that we are building a pipeline of, people for our programs. So, but if somebody, don't have to buy anything to be part of that, they go through it, you want to take that info and go do it on your own, take off. We're cool with that. But most folks are, the handful of folks that are really committed and ambitious and want a guide to help them, or want to, take on some of our courses or whatever. Usually what happens after that, so we're like, all right, guys, what's next?
No shortage of things going on.
Yeah, that's right. Got a lot going on. So,
and anything to help the small business community in general and the local business community to me is important, because I truly believe that small business is, or at least should be, the backbone of our economy. All things being equal, if I can support a local small business, I will try to do it. I would rather go to the local Ace Hardware than a big box, because I know the owner.
yeah.
And I want to support that owner that lives here and has kids in school here and owns 2 stores here, as opposed to, nothing against the big box, but I'd rather work with that local person who has roots here. And so that's hopefully what you're doing will help build that community.
It does. I mean, businesses double. They hire twice as many employees. There's such an untapped potential of if you want to grow the economic base, then help a business double, as opposed to just give them startup money, but not giving them or incentives, and not giving them the resources that they need to grow and develop and take market share from, and to be able to take market share from other communities, honestly, or to be able to grow. Successful businesses, they pay a higher wage. They have good habits, good values, good. If they grow, they're also not just growing their business, but they're growing people, and they're growing citizens, and they're changing lives. So it's been really cool, not just to watch my team member, the clients that I work with grow, but actually watch how their team members have grown as their business has grown, and watching them change and them develop, and them either grow within the company, and sometimes they launch out and they go start their own business because of the things they learned, and that, it's really cool to be part of that.
Well, you've worked with a lot of different businesses since you became an action coach. Tell us, are there any consistent things across the board that you see that tend to hold people back from going from the plateau to where they really want to be?
Ooh, one word: mindset. It's 8 inches between their
Yeah,
ears. That's the quick version.
I believe that.
But if I just said that, that would be a little unclear. So allow me to expand, if I will, real quickly. So, what's mindset mean in my context? There, skill set first thing, right? Your skills, things you know how to do. So if you're going to grow your business, you've got to upskill yourself. You got to grow your skill set. You got to learn new things. But just learning things, you can read all the books you want. You can go to classes, you can go to seminars, you can go to workshops, you can go all those things. You can improve your skills. But if that runs in conflict with your belief system, like one common belief system slash mindset holdback that I've seen that's become more and more present over the last several years. It was in the trades starting 10, 12 years ago. And now it's infected much more of the business owner landscape as a whole. You just can't find good people. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work. That's a mindset problem. You say nobody wants to work and you can't find good people. All right. Well, and by the way, if that's your belief system, you will find that to be true. That's your mindset. But so if somebody like me comes along and goes and starts to question that mindset and belief system and go, wait a second. Okay. So nobody wants to work, but that person over there is working, right? And they're working really hard. Like there's a lot of people that are working really hard. Here's the reality. They just don't work for you. Okay. So let's dive down and find out why they don't work for you. Let's talk about your skill set in order to recruit, hire, train, develop. By the way, here's one solution to be able to get great people. You pay them 20% more than your competitors do. If you pay 20% more than your competitors, you're going to attract better people. Better bait equals better. Now there's more to it. You got to treat them well. You got to have a good culture, a good environment. You got to be a good person to work for. But all things being equal, you pay them 20% or you get 20 people. Well, I don't have the money for that. Okay. What skill set is missing for you not to make enough money to be able to pay? Because paying people 20% more is not that hard. It's not a hard financial thing. Actually, you can pay 20% people more and have less people. If you can pay through 5 people 20% more, and those 5 people that are superstars can do the work of 8 to 10 people. Well, mindset wise, belief system wise, skill set wise, the skill set to do that. And, you're in the marketing world, Frank, job ads, man, most business owners are terrible at writing job ads. Actually, some HR folks aren't great at it either, because they're not marketing people. And marketing's a hard skill set. They don't think like marketers. They think like job ad writers of 20, 30 years ago, where you just post a position description, hope somebody shows up and goes, oh yeah, give me that job. I want that job. That's great. No, man, you got to sell it. You got to market it. You got to use a lot of the techniques that you use in your marketing agency to be able to. So one of the things I do to help people is get them in that mindset and then help teach them how to write a job ad that sells the position, not just says, all right, here are the things I want from you. Actually, now you got to live in a world where working through belief systems is the big holdback. Then we've got, value systems can kind of toy with that, and identity and environment. That's all what shapes our mindset, which is our identity, our values, our beliefs, our skills. What shapes that is environment. And here's the big picture problem. Did we grow up, Frank, in an environment that taught us how to be outstanding entrepreneurial, progressive business owners? Or did we have an education system where we brought up in an environment that taught how to be good employees for an industrialized society? We were taught to do that.
I'm sure they actually taught us that either.
Yeah. Well, they taught us to sit down, wait for the answer, do what's told in line. Like our education system at its foundation was to be good employees.
That's true.
Like behave, sit in a row, do what you're told, blah, 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 wait for the answer, teacher, control, power, all that kind of stuff. Now, I've been to Turkey before. I've been to Istanbul, Turkey, to the market there. And let me tell you something. Them boys at the market there that have 1,400 shops over 400 blocks, they sell like 20 different things in all those stores. It's either rugs or candies or
they are relentless.
Those guys grew up hustling for 700 years as spice traders, like way back to the day, silk traders and spice. Like those are the greatest salespeople I've ever seen in my life, man. Hustlers. Like they know how to build rapport, it was a sales symphony that I watched. But that's because they grew up in an environment that if you don't hustle, if you don't sell, you don't eat. And so so what holds so many folks back are the mindset. So getting into the environment of other business owners that are ambitious, committed to growth, and that are on the same journey they are. That's one of the problems that exist, but also the problem that my organization has solved. I've got this little community of business owners that are they use this ActionCOACH business operating system to grow their business and are ambitious, committed. They've been through 30x. They've done the work. They're committed enough to hire a coach and be part of our programs. So that's a real cool ecosystem for business owners to get in, because environment can affect your mindset negatively and positively. By the way, this environment thing, for business owners looking at this, think about your environment. Is your environment, social environment, is it made up mostly of employees, or is it made up mostly of progressive business owners that are as committed to growth as you are? Right? It's more times than not, it's going to be employees, mostly family. I mean, family, social, and you hear them like talk about their jobs and my boss and so hard and oh my goodness, thank goodness, I can't wait till Wednesday. Oh, you made it till Friday. Can't wait for Friday. And you know what? We're built different as entrepreneurs. I don't know about you, man, but I'm excited on Sunday night, as I am on and Friday afternoon. I'm like, man, the week's over already. Golly, man, I can get it all done. So
get up in the morning too, do a little bit of work. You've got to have balance, but
yeah,
it's not a 40-hour thing.
Yeah. And we're the crazy folks that work 40, 50, 60 hours a week so that we don't have to work for somebody else, man. And we love what we do. We're passionate about what we do. We're just built different. And so getting an environment of, and by the way, we teach people, well, I'm not all about the hustle and grind to succeed, but the ultimate goal is, how do you build something that operates on its own, if that's what you want to do, so that you can grow and operate a business for, at passively or 5-10 hours a week, and it maintains without you. And if you want to grow it, then you're probably going to put a little more work in the growth piece and leading that. But once it gets to where you want to go, building it in a way the team runs it and systems run it. So if you want to be there or you want to be gone for 2 months, then it can grow and produce cash without you there.
And you can go on vacation and actually enjoy your vacation rather than worrying about what's going on back at the office because you don't have a team or systems in place.
That's right.
I know that my pastor and the church I attend.
Yeah.
He said something recently that I think is right on par with what you just said. He said, "Environment always trumps will." And I've heard another quote, and I don't remember who said it, but you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around, so choose them wisely. And I firmly believe that. If you put a good person in a group of 4 Debbie Downers, guess what's going to happen to that good person over time? They're going to become like those others. But if you take a Debbie Downer and put them in a room of positive thinkers, they may not fully adapt, but they're either going to adapt or they're going to leave.
Yeah. And you could get away, as an employee, you can get away with those people in your life. As a business owner, it's too tough. Right. It is too emotionally, it takes a lot emotionally, physically, energetically. So you have got to be very, very careful about, so many things, and environment and is one of those, to be able to cut your, you need people that gas you up and give you fuel, and not people that pull you down. And not that you have to disconnect for those people in your life, but you do need to limit them and be trained on how to have boundaries with those kind of folks. By the way, boundaries, that sounds a little mindset-y, doesn't it? So that's back to the mindset is the biggest thing. So lack of knowledge and which is kind of calls back to skill and the mindset piece, and making sure that you're in an environment and taking care of yourself, so that you do have the energy to do what's the toughest profession out there, growing a business.
Well, to To wrap this up, obviously you've been through a good career. If you were talking to somebody who was just starting out and said, I think I want to be an entrepreneur and start a business, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give that person starting out?
Learn how to do it. Learn how to do it two ways. Get the knowledge and training on how to grow a business. The also apprentice. Being a business owner, you want to apprentice, do an apprenticeship with good, high quality business owners in good organizations, and do what it takes. Look for the signs of, what it takes to succeed. It's funny. My son has aspirations. He's 21 years old and he's trying to figure it out. But he wanted to get in the restaurant business. He was a kid. He was 17, 18 years old, and he wanted a job, and he was going to go work in the restaurant business. And he had a couple of choices. He was going to work in one. I was like, you need to be careful of that. His sister had worked at this one, and I was like, it's not a great environment. It's a little toxic. It's not well run. If you want to be in the restaurant business, I want you to go work for the best restaurateur in town. And I believe the best restaurateur in town is Ash Aziz. He's had a great history of running great restaurants. He runs a tight ship. He's tough. And I was like, you need to go work for, and I had a connection that can kind of get him into that role. And because my son's a hard worker, he's really a hustler. They loved him because he hustled. And that was an example of, man, if you're going to go work in an environment, go work for the guy that's just the best at it, and you're going to learn a lot of things. Now, what he learned is he didn't want to do that kind of business long term, but he learned a lot about about being in that world, in the business world. So go apprentice under great business owners. Volunteer, ask that carry their bags, hey, what can you do? Or take on roles and get the variety of skills that you're going to need, because you're going to move from what our society trains us to be, which is specialists. You've got to learn as a business owner to be a generalist. And
And I believe also getting into a business and working in it before you go start your own business, to your point with your son, you may decide that's not what you want to do. And it's better to learn that before you start it than after.
yeah,
I've seen people, you know, go spend 4 or 5 years and get a college degree without ever interning or co-oping, and then they get their first job and hate what they do and go back to school and do something else. And
yeah. Go
same
work
concept.
for a person that's actually grown a business from nothing to something. Go find that guy that's not gotten trust fund daddy money or had the
Right.
business. Don't go work in a family business where something was inherited.
The guy who started in his garage.
Go work for the guy that started and built it to something significant. And it doesn't have to be crazy, but somebody that's built it from a nothing to if a 3, 4, $5 million business is more than adequate, right? Or somebody that's built from, 0 employees to 10, 20 employees,
Right.
they've grown and built something. And so what you can learn from that person that's grown one, and tell them, look, I'm going to work hard for you. I'm going to be your right-hand person, but I'm going to open my own business one day, right? And I want to learn from you. But and a lot of owners are scared of that, by the way. I don't want to hire somebody to be my competitors. And I said, no, 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 no. Actually, the best, having somebody that has the desire to be a business owner, man, bring them on. I'm going to load you up. Like, you're going to learn how to be a business owner. You're going to do your job, and then I'm going to give you 2 or 3 other jobs on top of your jobs, and that's how you're going to learn to be a business owner. So go through those apprenticeships and learn from somebody that's grown it, because that's going to be the best environment. Find out
Well,
who's done it, who's done it well.
went to work for someone like that. Well, now he owns the business he went to work for because that guy was looking for someone to hand it off
That's
to.
right.
We gradually phased him in, so the guy had the opportunity to work for the man who started and built the business, but then he did not have to start it from scratch. He was able to take it over and take it from here to here. And when he took it over, they had 3 employees. Now they got about 50. So he's certainly taken it to another level.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've observed in my own career, and then after that we'll start to wrap this up because we are pushing an hour, which is longer than when these usually go. I think no shortage of things for us to talk about. I worked years ago for a very successful businessman, and it looked great on paper. And if you were looking to hire somebody to take over a failing company, he would be it. But you also sometimes learn things not to do. And this person's life was totally out of balance. And they were great at work, but I think their home life suffered because of it. I think I learned some things not to do as well by looking at a person who they were successful here, but you look at Dave Ramsey's Wheel of Life, and they had a flat tire,
That's right.
so to speak. And you know, just because someone is effective, that doesn't mean they're perfect. None of us are infallible, and you can learn the good, the bad, and the ugly from that person, and become yourself. Don't try to be them.
That's right. That's right. You got to find a way to do it your way and fitting in your style. And that's the difference between consulting and coaching. That's a big question we get. Like a lot of folks like to claim the title of being a coach when they're just consultants. And so you got to be mindful of getting the consultant that is maybe industry specific that says, here, just do it my way. So a consultant says, here's my way, here's my system, do it this way. A coach is able to look at the human being and say, all right, how are we going to build this business forward with their strengths and in spite of their weakness? How are we going to work around their weaknesses? And, that's what a coach does over a consultant that just says, hey, this is the way, because the way that you're going to build a business and I'm going to build a business, even if we're in the same business, it's going to look completely different
Because we're different people and we have different
Yeah.
ways of working.
But you're a different kind of politician than a lot of politicians are, right? Yeah.
I like to think so.
I think
Yeah.
so too. Like the way that you run your campaigns and the way that you address, like you do it your way. And so if the other guy that says you can only do it, I'm sure you've had people say, no, look, you can only do it this way. And you're like, no, that doesn't set well with me. And that's not going
Well,
to work for me.
even
And
in
you,
my business, I had someone years ago who offered to wanted us to merge in with their business. And the more I talked to them, I mean, they're a nice person, but it was so different than the way I do things. I'm like, I didn't start this business to go in and be subservient to somebody else's way of doing things.
yeah.
And well, we've certainly covered a lot, and I greatly appreciate you joining us today. So we'll wrap it up with one going back from business back to a personal question. What either books do you read or podcasts do you like to listen to, either for business or for pleasure, whatever you want to share?
I am a podcast guy. I'm a podcast guy. Love some podcasts. I guess I'm auditory then from that perspective. So I currently a big part of my podcast world will center around the my hometown basketball team that's currently in the NBA Finals. Yeah.
Who's your favorite NBA team?
Yeah, I'm a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. I was born and raised. I'm not just on the bandwagon because they're the new hot team, but I grew up 30 blocks from the stadium, so the big fan, and never thought Oklahoma City would get an NBA basketball team of all things, and they've been really competitive over the years, and so they're back and about to go on a really strong run for the next several. So people are going to quit hearing about them. But I listen to tons of podcasts. I'm the guy that doesn't listen to the reporter, but I listen to the press conferences because I want to hear from the coaches and players, but I also like heavier level, long form analysis. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and shows around that. But on a business standpoint, big fan of the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, who is incredible out of the UK. He's a lot to learn from him. I listen to some comedian podcasts of different flavors because I like a good laugh. I listen to Dr. Phil's on my podcast rank. He's got some good podcasts that are, informative and, talking about human behavior, which I'm somewhat in that business. Tim Ferriss, has good stuff. Manager Tools podcasts. There's just great to learning how to be more effective as a manager. So, have a pretty wide variety of podcasts. It's interesting. Hang on just a second. Let me look at anybody else that would be interesting. I look at my podcast reel. Who am I forgetting? Let's see. Oh, the Golf Guys podcast. Listen to them. So anyway, but mostly what tears up 50% of my podcast listening is sports. Hey, here's one podcast that I really, really like that it was kind of an obscure thing. Paul McCartney created a podcast called In the Lyrics. And A Life in Lyrics is what it's called. And it's him talking about like different songs. What's the story behind the songs? And that's a bit of an eclectic pod.
Be very
Yeah, I like to hear the story behind the story. So it's really cool to hear, John tell a story about what's the song all about, So anyway,
well. Thank you again for joining us today. We certainly appreciate you sharing and look forward to seeing some of the things you guys are unrolling in the near future. What is your website if someone wants to check you out?
it's Reggie Shropshire dot actioncoach.com. Easiest way to find it. It's just Google Coach Reggie. Coach Reggie Action Coach. You probably, if you just go Coach Reggie Wilmington, it'll be easy to find me.
You're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, not hard to find. And go to the website and check out what we have going on. Greatest entry point for folks is one of our intro classes. We do almost all our intro stuff is we believe in demoing or giving away the first experience. So no matter, and there's different levels of those experiences, but if you're interested in any of our master classes, first one's on us, and then you can make a decision there whether it's a good fit for you. Same thing with this 30x deal. So if you've got any interest in any of our programs ongoing, just reach out and find out what's the right thing to demo for you to get a taste and see if you want more. So
Thank you again for joining us. And for those of you who are either watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, thank you for tuning in. You can visit our website at capefearbusiness.com and follow us on any of those, or also sign up to receive email notifications. And hope you'll tune in again next week.
all right, good. Thanks, Frank.